In this lesson, we'll get Docker Engine installed on an Ubuntu system. If you're using a Mac, you can skip to the next lesson where we'll discuss installing Docker Toolbox. Since Docker runs natively on Linux, the only application we need to install to get up and running is Docker Engine. Let's open a terminal and get started. The first thing we'll need to do is update our app sources. Let's add the new GPG key. Next, we need to edit our Docker apt sources. Let's open or create our docker.list file. In this file, we need to add the Docker repository. I'm using version 1504, aka Vivid, so I need to include that as well. Finally, we need to run apt-get update. Good, now that we've updated our package manager, we should be able to install the Docker Engine package. Now that the Docker Engine package is installed, we can enable automatic launching of the Docker daemon with systemd. Let's try running a sample Docker container that I created for this course, just to make sure that we've properly installed Docker. This Docker container is called Hello O'Reilly and should simply echo the phrase Hello O'Reilly. Let's try it out. Great, it outputted Hello O'Reilly. You just ran your first Docker container. And now that we have a working Docker installation, notice that we have to run all the commands using sudo. We can avoid having to do this by adding our user to the Docker group. Any user in the Docker group has full permissions on the Docker daemon. We can add our user to the Docker group like this. Now we just need to log out and log back in for our changes to take effect. Okay, let's try running Docker without sudo now. Notice we used a different Docker image this time. This Hello O'Reilly container runs a web server on port 4567. This is mapped using the -p parameter you see here. We'll talk more about the -p parameter in a later lesson. Since we're using Linux and Docker Engine is running directly on our local host, we can access this web server on localhost. This is important to note because Mac users will not be able to access Docker containers on localhost, as they will be running Docker in a small VM. I bring this up because the rest of the course will be on a Mac, and I'll be using Docker host IP rather than localhost. Let's verify. And our web request outputted Hello O'Reilly on port 4567. And now we're ready to start running containers and building images.